Hello, everyone. It is 53 minutes after 9. Have a good weekend. A little foggy this weekend, and obviously foggy this morning, as you guys are fully aware. Hello, everyone. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to SnowTALK on this Monday, Thanksgiving week. Moving right along, right? It seems like yesterday we were talking about the 4th of July, right? Moves fast this time of year for sure. And we've got a busy setup this week. I'm sure you guys are fully aware. You've been keeping an eye, I'm sure, on the weather setup, and it continues to evolve, and it's not done. It's not done settling, so still expect several changes in this 10-day. Even for this week, I think we're going to have several more to come. I'll explain as my hair, it continues to get grayer with this kind of a forecast. But we're going to dive into it because we have a few systems to get through for the next 7 to 10 days for sure, and we have one arriving tonight and tomorrow. So we don't want to ignore that. I want to go through the steps on that, how that's going to play out for us, and then we'll get into the longer term as well here in just a second. Someone said loud about a sunny Sunday. Well, we had a sunny day outside. I had a sunny Sunday where I was at, but then we got cloudy in the afternoon. But that fog was definitely an issue. Good morning to everybody. Everybody's saying hi to each other. Hello, hello. All right, let's get right into the snowboard. Let's start with where that is at, and it's still a complex set for the weekend, as we'll go through in a second. Right now, we're thinking a snow. It's likely to be some type of frozen precip first, but has a good chance to go to liquid form. It's a matter of how fast does that happen. Oh boy, don't we love when that rain snow line is right here in the Ohio Valley? That looks to be the case with this one, and then the reverse will likely happen into the first week of December, where we go from a rain to something wintry. We'll say snow for now, and we'll just leave it at that and fine tune it. But those are the two periods right now that I still think we need to monitor. And I'll try to explain where we're at on that in just a second. Live view right now, looking from Paristown. Fête de Noël is starting Friday, I believe. So the ice rink will be fully available. That's the one benefit to getting colder toward the Thanksgiving holiday, is that that'll put everybody in the spirit to get out there, right? And get ready for the fun at the ice rink, whatever you have planned for the holidays. Visibility this morning, obviously, quite low. It's starting to improve. Low was at 3, and 10 is the goal. You want to get to 10 miles for, I wouldn't say perfect, but it's the acceptable visibility to avoid any issues, especially when it comes to air travel. No really restrictions on that. So right now, several spots in central Kentucky and Indiana still running low. Don't get me wrong, but many spots, including the Louisville Metro, have started to improve at a steady rate here in the last 30 minutes especially. So we're at the end of the foggy scenario, but it is still cloudy above all this fog. So we're not going to get on the sunnier side of things here today, unfortunately. 43 in Louisville now, 39 in Shelbyville. It's a cold fog too, right? Hard to see the fog because, again, you got high clouds that are streaming in over us at the same time, kind of flying over the lower stratus there on the ground. See some of the hints in the valleys, some of the fog in eastern Kentucky, parts of there, central Kentucky as well. But again, with the higher clouds kind of blocking our view, we can't see all the fog in the area. But it's out there. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is that even though the fog will be dispersing and thinning out a bit and beginning to lift, we will likely be still under a overcast sky today. It could even get a little bit of drizzle, in fact, developing here this afternoon as we get ready for our first system for the week that will be arriving as we head into tonight and into tomorrow. So that system now is to our west, producing some rain and some thunder back into areas of Texas. It's been a long morning for Texas, especially for the Metroplex. Some flooding issues at times, a lot of lightning and thunder. Your severe risk, that, by the way, is going to stay down in that area for this particular system. It's going to be an I-20, I-10 type of corridor that will start to face some active weather here as we head into this evening and into Tuesday will be to our south. Could get some thunderstorms into areas southeast of Louisville tomorrow afternoon. I'll show you where in a second that's possible, but I don't see anything on the strong side right now. That is the only exception. Otherwise, this system is mainly a rain event that's going to be scooting on by. But it is the catalyst, if you will, to allow for the colder flow that will be settling in as we head toward the Thanksgiving holiday. So let's dive into it in the short range. I mentioned the drizzle. They'll be increasing today. Very patchy to start with, a little bit more during the overnight, and then we get into actual showers that will have a bit more of a kick to them for the morning commute tomorrow. Now, this particular run of the graph model is not showing a lot of moderate rain in the area in the morning, but there's a pretty good signal. We're going to get a training effect of a southwest and northeast band that will line up along the Ohio River for the morning commute tomorrow. So just a heads up. I don't see it enough right now to cause any flooding issues or any big concern that we'd have to go with an alert day setup for travel due to hydroplaning concerns we have on rush hour periods. I don't see that being a case as of now. The rain amounts look to be rainfall rates. While they'll be heavy, I think it'll vary enough that hopefully the drainage will be okay for the area roads. Now, if we see that change today, we get more data indicates rainfall rates. Again, I'm not talking about rainfall amounts, I'm talking about rate, because rate in the Louisville Metro at rush hour is a completely different ball game than getting 2 inches of rain for your rain total. All right. So I'm talking about the intensity of it while it's falling and everyone trying to get around town. We know that it creates a mess. Accident city, in fact. So we'll be watching this today. If we see that trend go up where we could have some higher rates in the morning, don't be surprised if there is a very short-term alert day for tomorrow morning's rush hour. Just to make sure everybody's aware, to allow a lot of time in your morning drive. It's Tuesday as well. You know, the busy travel day is Wednesday, but Tuesday is now the day where everyone's basically off work now. It's getting earlier and earlier every year. Schools are out earlier. A lot of folks getting out of the office a little earlier. So Tuesday's becoming the big headache day now on travel in the area as everyone's kind of wrapping up and getting ready for the holiday week. So again, use caution there on Tuesday. I mentioned a thunderstorm chance Tuesday afternoon. That would be more so in the afternoon. There's just a modest amount of heating at the very end of the front as it moves by into Greene, Taylor, Adair County. Typical spots we always seem to reference in terms of thunderstorms. You would run in the risk for maybe one or two gustier thunderstorms. Don't want to say severe right now because all the parameters are not lining up for sure. It's a very weak signal, actually. But just want to mention that if there's going to be any lightning and thunder, it's more likely at this point of the day, Tuesday afternoon. Okay. So as it moves on by, then we get into the windy and colder setup as we head into Wednesday. In fact, the wind gust will likely get to advisory level along I-70 and north and southern Indiana on the southern side here into Louisville. A little questionable if we'll get to advisory level, but still, I think frequent gusts over 30 miles per hour will be likely. And with temperatures struggling to get about 40 on Wednesday, that means wind chills will stay in the lower 30s all day long on Wednesday, and we'll continue that idea on Thanksgiving. While Thanksgiving right now is trending quiet. Oops, I didn't mean to go that fast. Hold on, let me back up. It's trending quiet. There will be some gusty winds at times, and it will be a bit blustery outside. I want to mention right here, as we get into late Wednesday night into Thanksgiving morning, I'm talking about the wee hours of Thanksgiving, there is a hint of moisture that travels right here along, I would say, in a spot from near the Wabash, Bloomington, Indiana, through Indianapolis and Cincinnati. Very weak amount of moisture here. Only reason why I mention this is that if it were to materialize, we would get maybe a few snow flurries that could fly mainly north and east of wave country. I don't think it's going to be within our boundaries with our counties right now, but it's a minor issue. Just want to at least mention that if you were to see some flurries flying early Thanksgiving morning, don't be shocked. Otherwise, it's very quick hitting. It moves in and moves out of here. And really, by the time most of us are awake on Thanksgiving, they're not cooking, that is, it'll already be east of us. Otherwise, no issues for travel for Thanksgiving. We're looking good there. Even for Black Friday, I don't see a lot of concern. It's really right after that things get to be a problem. So here's how we're going to go through this, because there are a lot of you here that I know are seeing a lot of different outlooks, and I get that, and you're going to see that's not going to change. You're going to see a different forecast, probably even Facebook to Facebook, TV station to TV station. You may see that. It's a very complex setup as we evolve into the holiday weekend, that it will now come down to which meteorologist is going to feel that the most likely solution is going to play out, and they will display that. And there's such a high variance on this that we're going to take the cautionary route as much as we can here and I'm going to talk about where the data lies, what we're looking at for a margin of error that will come into play for the holiday weekend. This is not settled yet, is what I'm trying to say. It needs more time in the oven to cook. And it's been a thorn in our side for more than 10 days already, has been this particular outlook that continues to evolve. And I just don't think we're going to get the finer details on this until the very last minute, which is a little nerve-wracking. But here's where we stand. I'm going to show you the euro, but I'll explain the outcomes that could come into play here. The cold blast of air, and this is not anything record-breaking, it just gets us to cold levels, below freezing at night, barely above 40 during the day. I mean, that's going to set the stage for a very chilly setup in the Ohio Valley. It's going to cool down the ground. It's going to cool down the pavement. That's important. If we didn't have this colder blast moving in for Wednesday into Thanksgiving, then the outlook for the upcoming weekend would pretty much be a no-brainer, that it's going to be rain and thunderstorms, in fact. I would even go with 60s. But because this is in the way, it complicates things. Remember what we said about cold air. It's heavy, it's lazy, it's very dense. The models can be aggressive on bringing it in, that's fair, but they tend to be a little too aggressive on moving it out. And that's where we have to kind of try to keep an eye on the models and see where they're going with this, because we know that they have their issues when it comes to removing cold air and allowing for warm air to flow in. Having said that, there is no doubt that in Ohio Valley, especially when you get a south wind involved here, it overwhelms most of our systems and can be an absolute forecast bust on anything wintry, because that warmer air tends to win out here. So I'm not discounting that. And in fact, I think that's a significant thought we need to put into the system, that the warm air is going to be fairly overwhelming with this. So it's a matter of now battling out where do the two ideas blend together. And I would say at the moment, if you are in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, you are in a spot that is in a true battle zone between the two ideas and could get a fairly significant winter storm out of this kind of a setup. So you got to watch it. Am I saying we're not going to get any wintry weather in Ohio Valley? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, at least in our area, the Ohio Valley, I'm just saying that it's a little more complex the more south of I-70 you get. And that's something that we are professionals at. We are used to complexity. We deal with that all the time here in the winter. This one's going to be one that's going to try us out and stress a lot of weather folks out for sure. So be nice to us. Be nice. We're already stressed out. We'll be really stressed out with this one. So let me show the euro. All right, it moves the colder area in. We got that established, right? Here comes the energy rolling in. Now, here's where things get a little weird. The euro, which tends to hold back energy in the Rockies longer than the GFS and other global models, is actually doing the opposite. It wants to roll it all out, while the GFS and other models that tend to go a little slower, or a little faster, are the slower ones, allowing for a bit of a deeper system that develops down to Texas and then rolls out from there. Two different angles of attack. The euro likes an idea of a storm track similar to this, almost nearly a zonal flow west to east. GFS likes a little more of a cutting of the low pressure. This will come down to a lot of the teleconnections, and one of them that I'll show you in a second is the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation. That one is positive. That's a positive signal. Typically, with a positive signal like that with the NAO, you're going to get a system that is going to likely go more west to east, not necessarily cutting. If we had a little bit more of a negative look to it, I think it would cut, but it's fairly positive. So what the euro is doing with the system of moving it quickly a little more east than cutting the system actually makes a little more sense right now. If you were to take the typical bias that we have in models and you look at the teleconnections, it makes a little more sense there. So we'll see how they battle it out between the two ideas, but that is going to be our biggest argument we've got here that we've got to answer is how quickly does the energy roll in for this weekend? Does it roll in and quickly zoom across the Ohio Valley, or does it take some time and dig down to the Texas first and then cut through the Ohio Valley to the north and east? Two different ways there you can get wintry weather in the Ohio Valley, and the one that cuts tends to be usually the stronger one. And it usually is a rain event for us, by the way, when we see that signal. So the euro wants to bring it all out, and boy, look how close this is. I mean, if you go by this would all begin, by the way, Saturday into Sunday, depending on which model you look at, but in general, Saturday into Sunday is a fair. It's the weekend. Don't see any issues on Thanksgiving. Don't see any issues on Friday. Again, Saturday into Sunday, we start to enter the problem child here. As we get into Saturday, the battle zone's very close to us. I mean, it could be a situation where you got, decent amount of snow falling here, just barely north of wave country. But in wave country, it could be all rain and couldn't even get some thunder, in fact. It continues to remain very close to us, even on Sunday. And then by the time we drop again on temperature, it's already drying out and moving away and heading out to town. It's a very close call, guys. Too close for comfort, and there's still a lot of wiggle room here to be had. So no one solution is dominating the other right now on the ideas for the weekend. But if you have any travel plans, Angela, where are you at? I don't know if you're in here or not, Angela, but if you're traveling to the north and west of Louisville, you need to really keep an eye on the forecast, especially for those of you traveling on Thanksgiving, no problems, but you're trying to get back on Sunday, could be a different story. And this will certainly impact travel on the roads and by air, too. This is going to be a fairly active, significant system here for the Ohio Valley in the northeast part of the country. So that's what it looks like on paper. Yes, we do get into another setup where another batch of cold air drops down. And we get another piece moving in across the subtropical jet. You don't see anything on the model, but you probably wouldn't, and you probably won't for a while, because it's all about the pattern. And the pattern supports that between the 4th and the 6th of December, there will be another handshaking that happens, and perhaps another system that will become another wintry event for the Ohio Valley. But where we fit into that, I don't know. I can just tell you that it will be the next one on the charts after this weekend to watch. But that's a long way off. We got our hands full with the one for the weekend. Here's the NAO. Notice the trend. Now, the one with the circles on it, the bigger circles, is the most recent run, and it's above the black line, indicating a positive NAO. Again, a bit more of a faster rate of systems going west to east instead of slowing down, and not as much of a block for the subtropical side of things on the jet. And last week, most of the runs all the way into the start of the weekend were negative. And then the past several runs have been trending back above the line here. So that's why, again, this is an important one. Keep an eye on the NAO for you model watchers. This will be a big player on how the system evolves for the weekend in its general track. Here's another way to look at this setup. This is the GFS. I'm trying to be equal and showing all the different model ideas. Here's the GFS ensembles. It's not the GFS model itself, the actual run. This is the ensembles. Sometimes this is easier to look at than maps. Maps can be complex. This is your rain and snow chance as we head into the weekend in early December. Green being rain, snow being blue. Obviously, we got the rain event coming in tonight and tomorrow. Pretty easy to see that. Then you get into the Saturday and Sunday window. You see that it's got a higher probability for snow to start with, but you see the crossover that happens. They switch places, and the green or the rain takes over and becomes the dominant one for the rest of the system. That's fair. I think that is a good way to look at this, is that it's the front end of the system that, with that cold air still in place from Thanksgiving, how much of that is still available and hanging around to allow for anything wintry, and when it arrives is important. Does this arrive Saturday morning? Does this arrive Saturday late night? Or does it arrive in the middle of the day on Saturday? That will matter. Daytime arrival tends to favor rain than snow here. A nighttime arrival can get a little more interesting. So we got to figure that part out as well. When does it arrive? That will determine how this will play out. But it's hard to argue against the idea. Most of the data I've looked at today goes to a rain idea eventually. There's not a solution that I've found yet that brings in snow and keeps it as snow the entire time here in wave country. I've yet to find that, because I know you're going to ask that. I've been looking. It's not there. I'm not saying it could show up, but everything right now screams no, that this is going to be something wintry potentially that will go to rain. Now, typically in that scenario, when you have a warming event, it's a little opposite of when you have rain that ends as snow. Usually ends as snow because you're getting colder. Well, you got to watch about slick spots, and even very minor amounts of snow can create some travel issues. But when you go from a wintry setup to a warmer idea, go to rain, roads rarely are impacted in a significant way in that. Usually they're just wet. And that's the way we're also leaning right now, is not a huge impact on the wintry side of this. I think it'll be minor on the wintry. It may just be something visual that we see and then quickly goes to rain. Not the best of setups for snow lovers, I know, but it's close. It's really close. This track is going to be key here, guys, on how the two kind of battle out. And we got to figure out just how cold are we going to get Thanksgiving, because that too has been fluctuating. The colder we end up being versus the models, what they're saying now, the reality of it will absolutely play a role on how much of this is still left over for the system to take advantage of. When you look at the temperature profile, this is the same thing, GFS ensembles. The black line is the medium idea. The gray lines are the different solutions. Well, when they're all close together and squunched up with the black line, it indicates that confidence is high on that idea of whatever that line says on temperature, right? You can see the obvious drop that happens for Thanksgiving. But look what happens when we get into the weekend. The gray lines go everywhere. I mean, there's so many different solutions, warm and cold, that start to show up. The model's like, I have no idea. It's like a spaghetti plot for a hurricane. I have no idea. One of these is right. So that's why confidence is going to be very low on this one for a while. And I know it's going to be frustrating. So just hang tight. The Euro ensemble matrix that you guys love looking at. Let me bring that up. The matrix has filled in a little more for Saturday into Sunday than what it did have when I saw this last on Friday. It's filled in more. It's still not all the way filled in to pay attention to the numbers yet, but still, you can tell there's more gray than blue here. So that indicates a very light event, but it's getting a little noisy. So it's worth watching for sure. It's also worth mentioning that the Euro ensembles for the matrix never gave up on the wintry idea for this weekend. While the actual model was showing a quieter setup for a while, it never gave up on this side of things. It still indicated there was a snow potential, which gave us all a little bit of an uneasy feeling here in the weather office, like, it's not giving up. And usually the Euro does pretty good ensembles on sniffing out a snowier idea, and it's held its ground, and it's still holding its ground for this. So I think it's something we also have to pay attention to. Yes, I know down the road it gets a little noisy, but it's not a very strong signal. It doesn't know where to put it. It's all over the place. So ignore that part of the forecast. And one of the big players on getting the colder air to come into play down the road, by the way, into December, this is the MJO. Not to get into what this all is because it'll give you a headache. This is all about the storminess, if you will. Active weather from the Indian Ocean does play a role in weather patterns into North America. Again, it gets complex. What you need to know is, where does that green line go? The green line goes into different boxes. You see them labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 in a counterclockwise fashion. Certain numbers mean certain things different times of the year. In this particular case, phase 7 shows wintry weather entering the United States. Phase 8 is cold, overwhelming cold in our area especially. And until we see that green go over into phase 8, we're not going to see any cold that's going to lock. And look what it does. It gets right up to the line and staring it down, but it doesn't cross it, at least not yet. That's what I'm waiting to see. Once we see more data that indicates a more phase 8 idea and flips to that category in that quadrant, then it's game on. It gets a little more exciting for the rest of December. But so far, it hasn't crossed over that line yet. I'm not saying it won't, but right now, that's the reason why we're not talking too much about the long-term cold yet until we get a better signal on that. So here's where we stand on the 10-day. I'm going to get to your questions. I know you're going to have a lot. I know it's a lot to digest. It's not an easy one to explain, so I apologize. So make sure if I'm not clear, what I can do to help you, all right? That's why I'm here. You see the rain coming in tonight, windy on Wednesday. Again, chilly air for Thursday and Black Friday, setting the stage for at least the start of wintry weather to begin that system. And as of now, we're going to go with it going to rain. And then we'll just see how that evolves. But if you are traveling in the Ohio Valley, that may become a problem for you the more north and west you travel. Hard to ignore that signal. All right, so what can I try to help you guys with? Let's see. Pam, you're in a semi right now in Oklahoma. Cloudy and 55. Be careful, Pam. Margaret, nobody, too soon for snow. Nobody dreams of a white Thanksgiving. True. To be honest, that's a fair point, Margaret. I think Thanksgiving is the bigger travel holiday than Christmas is. That a lot of students especially try to travel home for the Thanksgiving holiday. Then they have to travel back because you got to deal with finals, right? You still got work to do at school. So unlike the Christmas holiday where you kind of arrive and you just hang tight all the way through January, this is a holiday that involves a lot of travel on the beginning and the end portion of the holiday weekend. So while I love snow, I get it. I don't think any of us really want to deal with a winter storm when everyone's trying to travel right now. So that's a fair point. Snow lovers may disagree with me. I'm a snow lover. as you guys know. But I think that's a fair point that Margaret's making there. So I don't like to see the bigger headache that could develop for Missouri and Illinois and Indiana. That could be a bigger issue. Hey, Bryce, hope all is well. Are you worried about ice next week? Don't know yet. I don't know yet. This particular system, I'm not worried about it because the warmer air is, it's not so much the cold air is basically so brutally cold Arctic air that's the only time I worry about ice is when you get Arctic air involved. The signal for December, I don't know yet, Bryce. And if that signal becomes a little more apparent on very cold Arctic air, then maybe we get into more of an ice discussion. But this particular setup typically is either rain or snow. Very much a clear line on that. Sometimes you get sleet, but usually it's rain or snow. Pretty definitive on that until we get a little more of a very cold environment. Let's see. Hey, Sean. What about Saturday? Father's driving up north to the eastern side of Indianapolis Saturdays. Saturday's a day to watch, Sean. It'll be arriving as the day evolves on Saturday. Again, I don't know if it's going to be Saturday morning into Saturday night yet. We don't know the angle of attack, whether it's going west-east versus digging into Texas and then cutting up. That will delay a system. When it digs into Texas, it can sometimes add another 12 to 18 hours before it arrives to cause impacts versus the Euro idea of it getting here quicker along I-70, if you will. That would allow for a faster arrival on the wintry side. So that part has to be worked out, Sean. But in general, Saturday into Sunday is the time period of most impact. So tell your father to hang tight and stay close to the forecast for sure. If you're able to get there on Friday, that would avoid the drama altogether. Hi, Angela. You're traveling. Sorry, I hit the wrong one. You're traveling today and returning on Saturday. You're returning on Saturday. All right, Angela. Well, I would say the earlier the better on Saturday if you want to avoid this mess, unless you want to play in the snow and make us all jealous. Hey, Carrie, do you know when the fog will clear out? It'll be a gradual. It just depends on where you're at. Valleys and open areas are a little different on how quickly things get stirred to allow for the fog to improve. So, Carrie, it just depends on your area. You're in Southeast, I believe, right? So you're a fairly open area. So you may end up with a rapid improvement here soon, but it's going to take a little bit more time. But it's already improving quite a bit into the metro here. Jedediah, snow NATO. Nope. No snow NATO that I see coming into play. Other people have said our region looks good for snow after the first week of December. I mean, that's fair, but that's all just based on it's going to get colder, right? So if you get colder, then that brings into question that, yeah, your snow chances will go up. And that's what we've been going with. Yeah, that's fair. It's fair to say that. But there's no definitive systems to track yet. Again, you really don't want this really cold air mass to move in here. If you want snow, you don't want that. I'm telling you, it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be cold and dry. You're going to be angry. This kind of a balance here this weekend, while it's frustrating, this is how you get your bigger winter storms, though. When you're a little closer to that magical point of 32, you get a little bit more of a bigger snow event and winter storms. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Driving Cincinnati back this evening? No problems. You'll be fine. A little bit of drizzle on your way back. That's about it. Everyone good? I know there's a lot to digest here, but I want you guys just keep in mind we're going to be on here every day, right? We're on TV doing our newscast, and the blog's going to be here every day this week, including Thanksgiving and Black Friday. So you're going to get a lot of updates. So this is where we stand just today, just for Monday. It's going to be interesting to see how this evolves. This is going to be a good test run to see how well the data is on handling this pattern, because if it does a horrible job and say this evolves into a whole other idea by the weekend, then it's going to be a very frustrating December. We're going to be really stressed out. But I think right now we've got to figure out the basics, and that is the track of the system and timing of arrival. Once we figure that out, I think we'll have a better idea of how the cold and the warm will kind of interact together. But you kind of got to figure out the bigger scale issues first before you can get into the finer details of rain versus snow and all that. It's really hard in advance. So just hang tight. I got a feeling this is going to continue to evolve. It's certainly one that's going to be getting a lot of attention. If it hasn't already, it will be every day this week. All right, guys, be careful, though. Don't want you guys to ignore the rain coming in tonight and tomorrow. That is still going to make things messy, even though it's not snow. Rainy roads, again, coming back into play, and we'll keep an eye on that wind. as we head into Wednesday. All right. You all take care. I'm going to jet. I got a lot to get through on the midday data to get ready for the midday show. So make sure to tune in for that. I have more starting at 11 a.m. On midday. Take care, guys. See you soon.